Hello everyone, welcome back to Let's Take 5, the podcast where we take a cinema legend, then take 5 of their films to highlight their excellence and range. My name is Austin Luger.
My name is Eric Martindale.
And today is sort of a new 5. Here we are in the throes of October, so we better do Gene Kelly, the American musical hero. Planned it out perfectly this year.
Ooh, spooky.
In the next month, we're going to be covering films like Singin' in the Rain, It's Always Fair Weather, The Young Girls of Rochefort, and Xanadu. But today we're going to start off with the Best Picture winner, An American in Paris. This is the...
I almost laughed. Sorry, go ahead.
No, wait for that part.
Yeah, I know.
This is the 1951 film directed by Vincent Minnelli, who's best known as the director behind the beloved Romeo and Juliet, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm 97% sure of that.
Me too. I'm worried I'm wrong now. But this is the story of Gene Kelly, who is an American in Paris, and everyone falls in love with him. He's an artist.
Yes, that is the story of the film.
Yes, and...
What?
Okay,
what?
so...
hold on. But, what you just gave is a very, very reasonable synopsis of what happens in this film. Mm-hmm. But what it's missing there is why. In order to be like a story. Mm-hmm. The correct synopsis would be to say that this is a movie about an American in Paris, and we know that because of a voiceover at the beginning, where people fall in love with him. He's an incredible artist. Mm-hmm. He's beautiful to look at.
Those are both true. He's actually a weirdly good artist. Like, the first thing you see of him is perhaps like the best still life you'll ever see of someone's own face.
That's true.
And he erases it.
Then he erases, yes. But there's a little to actually no. There's no nuance to the film.
There's no nuance to the story. I think there is something to say about the filmmaking.
Sure. Okay.
But as a story, I realized about an hour in that I picked the wrong film for this 5, and I apologize for that because this did not hold up for me at all since high school. But I wanted a film that was kind of early on of Gene Kelly's career, kind of one where he was kind of still a headliner of films and of musicals, films that just kind of showed off his talent, and kind of later on in his career, you had more interesting artistic endeavors. And the film I should have chosen was On the Town, which was... I just was trying to avoid having 3 films co-directed by him. But that is a much better showcase and balancing out of Gene Kelly's ego.
And On the Town, it has Frank Sinatra in it, too.
Does. So, and other guy.
Yeah, and would you be afraid then that that's more of a Sinatra film than a...
No, it's actually a weirdly even film between the 3 of them.
Yeah.
And it's a very good film. It has way better songs. It has... The plot is so wonderfully thin, but it works because it's just about 3 sailors on shore leave who are wanting to get laid, but they can't say laid in 1948, so it's just...
They're going to sing about it.
Oh, they are. And the movie is great. It's very, very charming. This does not work because of many factors, but I think we can still have a good discussion about it. And...
Well, yeah. Okay, Gene Kelly... An American in Paris, and also in Singin' in the Rain, but we're talking just about American in Paris today. He's kind of a problematic guy, and for many reasons, not least of which is just the story never really has a good reason for being told, but also there's a lack of grace that is kind of required nowadays in order to pull something like this off. I think he's a sociopath. Like, he's just really good looking, and he knows he gets what he wants. If he walks into a room, everyone will turn to look at him, and the attention will be on him. Someone will light him a cigarette. Someone will pour him a drink. Some woman will sit on his lap. And, oh, God, but it's my life. It just sucks, doesn't it? And, like, there's really something to be desired there, not just from a plot perspective, but also from a characterization perspective as well. You could say in the classic American musical, Gene Kelly's beautiful to look at. He's an unbelievable looking guy, and that could just sell it on its own. And then, of course, the women he runs into are pretty too, and we want pretty people to get together, I guess, the symmetry of it all. Mm-hmm. But to actually look at this film critically and not from a perspective of just, oh, hey, ain't he a great dancer? He's a miserable character.
And that is what's shocking to me, because, I mean, I wanted to do musicals. I was tempted to do Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, but I was worried that their set of films were too similar to discuss week to week, even though they are delightful. And I would happily watch 5 of them in a row immediately. But there is something about old Hollywood where when you have romantic comedies, it is almost always the guy decides before the girl that they're in love.
Right.
And there is, when done poorly, too aggressive of a tactic on that.
Yeah.
And that is very much in case here, because, like, you know, it's noticeable. I mean, next week we'll be discussing Singin' in the Rain, and notice that for the screenwriters of that film, there is a woman between the two of them. Mm-hmm. This is a film made by men, and clearly no woman said, hey, maybe lines like, you know, well, if you weren't going to say yes to the date, I was going to make you say yes to the date. You know,
yeah.
That's something you would say no to. That is horrifying and not romantic. And that is the problem with his character, because with a lot of characters, especially within the musical or the Hollywood genre, a lot of their actions are excused by their talent. But I think there's very his role is ajar, because he's supposed to be a great painter, and yet we see him as great because of his singing and dancing. Mm-hmm. And in other films, that is able to work better. He's too good at everything, and therefore he's actually good at nothing.
Well, and I don't trust a character that doesn't have some sort of character flaw.
Right.
Like, it just rings hollow to me. And not least of which is because I could turn the whole thing around and not just say, oh, you know, it's problematic that, what's her name? The character's name?
Say which one. There's two women.
I know. Is it Milo?
That's the older woman.
That's the older woman. So Lise? I don't know. I don't remember. I'm never going to see this movie again. So she, we go, well, it's problematic because she shouldn't be in love with Jerry. But also, I don't believe he's actually in love with her. I don't believe this guy loves anything but himself. And so it goes kind of both ways, because if you lack the necessary depth and you don't put the work in character-wise, mm-hmm. Then I don't believe it either way. It's a two-way street. I don't think this guy's capable of falling in love with anyone. He just saw this girl for like 5 seconds, and there's nothing really to indicate to me that he won't just feel the same way about another girl he bumps into in the street as soon as the movie ends. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, he's wrecked somebody's life. Mm-hmm. And the process of that, too. This isn't Casablanca. This is not nearly as well structured and not even close to as well acted, and certainly not as well written. Don't
worry, it won an Oscar for picture, screenplay.
I know. And if you had a counterpoint to that, I could actually go on, which I can get to in a minute.
Well, I think it's interesting because the musicals boomed in the sound era because it was something spectacular that you typically couldn't see. When you didn't live in the big cities, now you can have in your local theater the great spectacular that typically is only seen on Broadway. Mm-hmm. And especially during a lot of those early movies, including early Best Picture winners, like the Broadway Melody, they were hysterically light on story. They would have the most passable story for the excuse for the big songs. And this, I think, has a mixed bag of its songs. Some I do find charming, because I think that song, I've Got Rhythm, is super catchy.
Sure.
And that one did work for me. Half of the obligatory Gene Kelly dance number that destroys all momentum worked for me, as it typically does. But the issue with this case of, like, we're clearly putting all the focus on the numbers is it had too much story then. Like, if it had even flatter story, it would have been fine. Just like, this is just kind of padding for the numbers. But to have Gene Kelly, who does have, I think, still a considerable amount of charm, and his dancing skill to me is still rather incredible in all these scenes. When you have the big number that he has with his friend, played by Oscar Levant, when they talk about how much they're in love, they're more in love with doing the number. Mm-hmm. And that number is very fun to watch as these kind of two men talk about how much the heart is pounding. But there's not enough there's no scenes to match that to.
It feels like a commercial break.
Yes, and this film had a bunch of good commercials, which is not a good movie.
No.
Which is an unfortunate beginning of this 5.
And I think part of that reason why, and I wrote this in a text message, so I'm going to pull up my phone now and read it to you, has actually a lot to do with this song.
Is this to me?
No,
oh, okay.
It wasn't to you.
Because you sent me some angry text about this movie.
It's not very good. Okay, so I don't dislike musicals. I don't. Musicals, I mean, if you talk to anyone who knows even a musical 101, I'm a theater guy, I know this stuff, yeah. But a musical 101, they will tell you that they sing when words can't express them.
The emotion's too high.
The emotion's too high, right. And that's a lot of kind of flowery bullshit, and kind of makes an argument for like art for art's sake, or sort of a steep way of looking at things. But here's the problem with these songs: they don't sing to advance the plot. Every time they sing to emphasize the plot. Mm-hmm. That is to say, to tell us what we already know.
Yeah.
We know that the two characters are in love. So now we're going to watch them sing about how they're in love and why they're in love. Well, that doesn't really work because we already know that. Tell me something I don't already know. If you're not going to show me something I don't already know, or something that's not new to me, then it's not fun for me. It's boring for me, because essentially you are going to a commercial break. You're saying, here's the story to this plot point. We're going to sing where we're at right now. And then instead of saying we're singing about where we're going to be or what's actually happening, the songs are passive. They're about what we already know and about what happened. And that's not interesting to me. It'll never be interesting to me. There are I think, are better reasons for singing in this movie than in Singing in the Rain. But what Singing in the Rain
I'll flip that one.
Okay. But what Singing in the Rain had over this was that Singing in the Rain's songs were better. This movie's songs were worse. So I had to deal with mostly what I think mediocre songs about terrible plot points that I already knew danced beautifully. And that's a piss poor reason for a movie. Now, I understand, you mentioned like it was the way to see the Broadway from home whenever you didn't live in the big city. And the other reason for that is because we were just coming out of World War II and people wanted to go and see something bright and light and fun in the movie theaters. And that's really attractive to them at the time. You know, you don't have to use your brain all that much. Well, that's exactly what you got, a movie where you don't have to use your brain that much. And if you try to use it a little bit, the movie will get worse and worse. I have not seen every Best Picture. I know you have. This is one of the worst Best Pictures I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to the 5 where I make you watch ones that you'll probably hate more. We'll avoid that torture for you.
So I've probably seen 50 Best Pictures.
And you're probably good.
Yeah, and I'm probably good.
I don't know, maybe that you've missed that I think you need to run and see.
Since 70, and then after that, before that, it gets like Morse code spotty. But,
well, the problem with this is many things. This film.
I'm glad you kind of agree.
No, it was because I knew you were.
Because I didn't think you would.
No, I had a problem with this film. If this was On the Town or even like a lot of other films of its kind, I can argue against, because I'm actually okay with musicals where it isn't necessarily perfectly ingrained with the plot, if it is for another different reason. Singing in the Rain, which we'll discuss next week, actually uses a lot of those plot-stopping numbers to enhance the themes. It enhances the characters. And the best types of romantic musicals, to my mind, when you have a musical that stops the plot with its numbers, is to make the greater argument, because these are characters who are able to express themselves better through song and dance than through words and actions. Unfortunately, these are not characters that pull that off. The reason you always know that Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers are in love is because of how simpatico they are at dancing. That is visual flirting in a way that you go, oh, much like when you see great banter, like in His Girl Friday, when the way they compete their sentences, you know that they are more meant to be together than the guy who's bad at the banter. This has such lame characters, and has a Gene Kelly character that is just basically a destructive character, and a rather, like... It's really hard to root for him in any circumstance because he's so aggressive towards everybody and barely seems to even tolerate his friend, just in case they may do a good number together. Mm-hmm. That this doesn't work on any sort of character level for me, whereas even the thinnest of movies, like On the Town, it does, because it's I get what each of those three guys wants. You know, and even if it's a silly, thin movie, it's successfully thin. Whereas this only succeeds in being really colorful and pretty. And it is something that is worth noting, and it is well done, because, boy, when Lost Studios knocked out musical after musical, month after month, they look like shit. I mean, even the best Bugsy Berkeley films had access to a crane and maybe a little bit more with some of the budgets. Some of them were very spectacular, but... This, you can use some real landscapes and more advanced backdrops and a nice movement of the camera that made it feel different than other films, but there's just nothing to latch onto the story, which hopefully will be the last time that I've this live for me.
Well, okay, so you have one interesting scene in this, so I will throw that out there. Do you know which at the top of your head?
I mean, it's hard to guess what you liked out of this film right now.
Yeah. The only scene that I kind of liked was the dramatic irony scene between Adam Henry and Jerry. Jerry is in love with the same girl that Henry's in love with, and Adam is the one that knows this, and he's finding it out all at the same time that, oh crap, they're both in love with the same woman.
Yeah,
and that's pretty good, because dramatic irony always works. And like the physical comedy that's happening there between I'm drinking your coffee now, I'm eating your donut, I thought it was mine, I eat a full donut, I order my coffee, I put my cigarette out in the like all that stuff like kind of works in a farcical kind of way. And the only reason it works is because it's the only scene with any conflict in it.
That's true. Yeah.
It is. I mean, there's some degrees of that. But with Lise and Jerry, I call her Lise, I don't know what her name is, by the river, but that's just because she knows that her other boyfriend is in the restaurant. Yeah. And one of these great scenes where Gene Kelly keeps jerking women's arms when they try to leave, which happens like 50 times. When they cross to leave and pull in the arm, that gets old. And so there's basically no conflict. But the biggest sin that the movie creates is there's no resolution either. Or at least they fake one. There is an inexplicable 20-minute dance number at the end of this film that makes no earthly sense whatsoever. You're talking about the problems that I had earlier about commercial breaks because they don't feel like they're advancing the plot. Ballet, every ballet, dancing, tap, everything gets poured into this final scene. And it's because, they've realized now, it's all been found out, he knows that he loves his girlfriend, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to bother with the names because it doesn't matter. And then at the end of this, he just drives her back to the party and they hug. What's the climax in this film?
So, Gene Kelly, I
needed an editor.
I mean, it's hysterical. I always assumed he directed this movie because of the sequence.
Yeah.
Because Singing in the Rain has the same problem. At least it's only 10 minutes long.
Yeah. It is funny because Singing in the Rain has the same fucking problem.
But it's only 10 minutes long.
Yeah. It's just shorter, so it's a little more okay.
And I go like, you know what?
It's also better.
It is better. We'll discuss both of them, I guess, for now. Because it is the indulgence of all indulgence.
It makes me like his character less because his character's already like teetering on sociopath. So now it's like now we're just going to watch him be a badass, and but it has no relevance to the plot. It'd be like if we just stopped we just stopped Batman. We just stopped in the middle of the Dark Knight, and we took 20 minutes to watch Christian Bale's workout routine. And then we went back. No, he can do it as Bruce Wayne. So we just watched Bruce Wayne work out for 25 minutes, and then he goes back and he punches the Joker in the face. That's it, and that's the end of the movie.
To be fair, that was a lot of filler in Arrow Season 1. Okay.
I mean, right?
The issue...
Also, the movie has nothing to do with him being a dancer. That's probably the biggest thing that really sucks about it is like we're watching these dance numbers and Jerry, who's Gene, isn't even a dancer.
Yeah.
So these scenes do not make sense.
Correct. It's so long. So the issue is that Gene Kelly is a really, really good dancer. And it's amusing during especially that long sequence when he's like with like 4 of the people who are in the line. They're very good. Gene Kelly is better. Like I'm not even like a great criticizer.
No, you can clearly see it.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And so whenever I watch a film with a Gene Kelly indulgent dance sequence in it, I always begin, man, this looks good. I mean, it has absolutely nothing to do with this movie. This is cool. This is cool. It's experimental, more something than typical Hollywood fare. This is nice. And then it keeps going for too long. It's like it always like loses me. Like I'm in there for like the first like 3-4 movements of it as they do scene changes within the giant scene. But yeah, it's an issue, and Singing in the Rain, the indulgency is still too long, but it's better because at least there is a plot reason, and also
it's character based at the very least.
It's character based. It's thematically based. We'll get to next week, but also at least at the very end, because he's describing it to his producers as a scene for the movie they're working on, and like the next line after this giant scene ends is the producer going, well, I can't really visualize that, so we'll see it on stage.
Yeah.
So that is a bit of a deflate the balloon. This is a crazy zoom in to a smiling Gene Kelly face. He pictures all this for 20 minutes and goes, I think I did nail this whole relationship thing. Yeah. So like, there's not even like a real thing he's working out mentally. It's just a really, really impressive technical feat that was a short film in the middle of the thing. Like, it's the Mickey Mouse cartoon.
Not the middle of the thing. The end of it.
The end. And the movie just straight up ends.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's kind of like Shakespeare in that Midsummer is over. And then there's a whole sequence where they watch the play by bottom.
Yeah, but that's kind of cool because when that happens, it's over and then that happens.
Yeah.
As almost like an epilogue. This happens before the ending.
Yeah.
It would be like if the play happened in Midsummer and then the lovers kissed each other. They didn't even get a scene at the end. They just kissed each other and then the play ended. So what do you say to someone who says that you just don't know dance and that's why this isn't a good movie?
I mean,
to you. Like you're not quite capable of discussing that.
I think this is clearly a platform where, like, if someone wanted to like make a wonderful YouTube video explaining why Gene Kelly is even more technically brilliant than I thought and was to use scenes in this movie, I would love to learn. As a story, this is one of his weakest endeavors, which is, again, a bummer to start this 5 on. This was, again, I should have done it on the town, should rewatch the films before picking them. Mm-hmm. Memory failed me on this one, but I still am enjoying the conversation because even though I don't want to rewatch this film, I do want to continue this. It's like watching a bad Cary Grant film still to me. Like, okay, Cary Grant, you phoned that one in, but I haven't watched Ocean Nickel Lace in a while. I can turn that one on. Mm-hmm. Because to me, there's still charm. This is just a really bad character.
Yeah.
And a nothing story. It's pretty.
Yeah.
I didn't gouge out my eyes like I fear you did during this movie, but I did check my watch as opposed to other films where they fly by for me.
Well, I literally could have, like... This film, to me, seemed longer than any of the Tarkovsky movies. And that's probably saying something, considering most of those were at least an hour longer, or an hour and a half longer.
Yeah.
But I just... it gave me no reason to hold my interest. It didn't even pretend to. it was a time and a place, and fine, you know, it's all well and good.
No, it's crazy it won this many Oscars.
It's completely offensive. You know what it's like? It's like this movie's perfect for YouTube. Years before YouTube comes around, because these scenes and individual parts, these dance numbers, work better on YouTube than they do in a movie that has absolutely nothing to do with them.
Yeah, just cut out all the things.
Like honestly, it would be a better movie if it was just the fucking dance numbers.
It needs to be like Key and Peele. I know very few friends actually seen an episode of Key and Peele, but everyone has seen 1,000 sketches by them. Turns out there's actually scenes between those sketches.
Yeah,
they're pretty good. I like Key and Peele.
Well, yeah, and
I've compared this film to Shakespeare and Key and Peele. I've done my job with this 5.
No, I mean, and I'm gonna have you're gonna hear me say that again, because I have similar feelings about Singin' in the Rain. I think Singin' in the Rain. So don't if you're out there listening, don't fear the next podcast Eric's gonna bitch some more, but
I'm gonna praise it successfully, so it'll be
okay.
Yeah,
I like Singin' in the Rain a lot more than American Paris. American Paris is a bad movie.
Unfortunately, yeah. I didn't know that I recorded the last episode. So I saw it in high school. Found it to be charming. It's not that good. I own the Blu-ray now.
You bought it on Blu-ray?
It was $10. I was like, because it was Sarah was to go through all the Best Picture winners. She hadn't seen this one yet. Didn't watch with me for this one.
Is it better than Wings?
No, Wings is better.
Wings is better.
It's better than the Broadway Melody. It's actually not even the worst, I think, musical of the 50s that won. Because I believe Gigi came out this decade.
Yeah, you told me.
Gigi's worse. Gigi thanks heaven for little girls. That's the opening number by an old man looking at the camera. So that's not this movie.
No, I'm trying to think, just because we got some time. what movie I've seen recently, or is this the worst movie I've seen on the 5, or the whole entire podcast? And I think that it's close.
It's one of my lowest, but I still just like Clockwork Orange more.
What was the other one I hated? There's one out there.
Ace in the Hole you hated. You hated Shortcuts you didn't like.
Shortcuts, it's okay. Oh, no, the shit. The terrible movie that's on Criterion that you loaned me. It has no plot, no story.
Slacker,
yes.
The first one in our Linklater 5.
Slacker's worse. Slacker's a worse movie.
I like Slacker.
But I just may have time to kill, so I got a few minutes. So much. I just like Slacker. But okay, so this is my second least favorite movie.
Okay.
And
out of 76.
Out of 76. So, that makes it the 74th of 76, just to put that in perspective. Or 75th. The 75th out of 76.
Uh-huh.
And it's the worst Best Picture I've ever seen. And
Crash.
Oh, I was gonna hold on. There was an ellipses there, except for Crash. That's the worst Best Picture, because that movie is offensively terrible. This is just bad.
My worst is still Cavalcade from the 30s. It's so shitty. It is the most pretentious movie you'll ever see.
How are you pretentious in the 30s?
They found a way.
They already got there with it?
This family, it's a melodrama, and they managed to Forrest Gump their way through everything, including someone's on the Titanic. And the Boer War. And World War I.
Is it like Time Bandits?
No, they're just old and British.
Oh, man. Yeah, I just, Here's hoping to a better future in this 5.
Yeah.
This was a weird ending, but I kind of liked it.
We had a fun time. All right, so hope I didn't lose you all, but we'll be back next week where we're reviewing Singin' in the Rain. at least more positively for me. We'll find out more about Eric's opinions next week. Until then, you can go to theartofmore.com where you can leave a comment on this thread. Let us know what you think about An American in Paris, Gene Kelly in general, and kind of the older Hollywood musicals. While you're there, go check out other podcasts, including The Immortals. Yesterday we covered the great film M, Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys, Tutti Frutti, and Dr. Kildare. Adam Stern has an episode about Inception. That really should be up now. I imagine that it is. I'm hopeful that it is. And, where can we find you, Eric?
Constant Diversion's my YouTube channel. You can check me out. On there.
And some good stuff over there.
Mm-hmm.
And, so also thank you to Adam Lord for our new theme music. And you can find more by him at songsbyalord.com. We'll be back next week. Rate us on iTunes or tell a friend, whatever you want to do. We thank you for it. I'm Austin Luger.
My name's Eric Martindale.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Rhythm, music, my gal, who could ask for anything more? Daisy, in green pastures, my gal, who could ask for anything more? Old man Trouble, I don't mind him, you won't find him round my door. Vous comprenez ça?
No!
Rhythm, music,
I
my gal, who could ask for anything more? Who could ask for anything more?